And we're live, and I just want to say thank you for showing up, those of you who do. And if you happen to be watching this on demand, either on Facebook, YouTube, or on my website, I also want to thank you for that. Man, it's a hot couple of days down here in South Florida, but we love it. Jump in the pool, cool off before the broadcast, and we're all good to go. My name, and just to introduce myself, my name is Barry Cunningham. I'm a real estate investor here in South Florida. I've been investing in real estate for, I'd say, 27 years or so, both here and up north. And when you've been involved in a game this long, there are certain signals and trends that pop out at you that you have to look at. And I'm going to go over some of those signals and trends that let me know that this is a great time to be in real estate, that this is a great time to begin buying. If you're a seller, not so much. Be careful out there. Be careful who you list your property with. I don't want you to have to be chasing the market down, as they say. It's going to get ugly out there for sellers. If you don't have to sell, maybe you need to pull back and take your property off the market and just see what happens. But before I go into the properties thing, start talking about, let me come back to what's impacting the market and why things may be happening the way they are happening and about to get worse. You see, you got a lot of people up north or wherever this guy is, people like this who post these kind of things about Florida. And their objective, I don't know what their objective is. Actually, I do. It's politically motivated. It has nothing to do with health. It has nothing to do with reality. It is everything about trying to push a narrative. So this guy, and there were a few of these. I mean, I probably found 10 of these. In fact, if you look over here to the right, you can still see that Governor Ron DeSantis is still trending because people all around the country are just bitching about Florida being the epicenter of the coronavirus. Even people here who don't know what the hell they're talking about are doing the same thing. But that's okay for those of us who are looking to buy some real estate. Let that continue to happen. Unfortunately, it's going to be a huge negative impact on the real estate market. But if you notice here, this guy, he basically throws all kinds of derogatory information at Ron DeSantis. Let me see if I can blow this up a little bit. Maybe you can even see it. Okay, there you go. And he says that DeSantis has failed Florida. That was one of the hashtags that was trending earlier. Calls us COVIDiots. That's another favorite term for the people up on Twitter. And if you notice, the same people, I'm just going to get a little political here, the same people who want Florida to be in a mad, hysterical mess down here, who all want us all having, the face masks everywhere we go, are also the same people who support some of the craziness that's going on. I mean, I just walked in and looked and saw some cops got ambushed in Tampa last night. There was just hundreds, maybe 1,000 people milling around. Nobody had a mask on. Nobody talks about that. Nobody ever talks about that. People trying to tear down statues, all congregating together, but don't talk about that. Let's call Ron DeSantis an idiot. And so this guy goes to our Florida COVID dashboard and he takes a snapshot of the cases going crazy and says that, we've had 20,000 cases over the past 5 days. But notice what he doesn't include. That's most important to me. That's most important to people who have some idea of what's going on. Most important to people who have a brain functioning, who can tell things, is what does this mean? Yeah, there was 4,000 or 5,000 cases. Yeah, and we've had a whole bunch from 20,000 cases in a week. What does that mean? Do you know what it means? Do you know how to look up the data? Because I responded to this guy and said, hey, I love how these guys always talk about fake news, but they don't put the rest of the news there. There's a chart that goes directly below the one he posted here. And notice he didn't even put it there. And of course, he doesn't respond to me because he knows I eat him alive. So here's the actual chart. And I've gone through this a few times. Let me get my head out the way here. 3,200, 3,300. Let's go ahead and round it up for the benefit of the nut job people out there. 3,300 deaths in a state of 21 million over the course of many, many months at this point. And here's the chart over here in the top right. This is the chart that this guy went ahead and cut and pasted and stuck in his tweet. And it shows that, oh my God, yesterday 5,500 positive cases came through in the state of Florida. And my question to him is, well, why didn't you also include this chart? Why didn't you include the chart, that my head's covering up right now? I'll get off of that. But why didn't you include this chart? If you want to put information out, why wouldn't you put all the information out? Why wouldn't you put the information out that says we had 7 people in the state of Florida, the entire state of 21 million people? The entire state, from Jacksonville to the Key West, from Panama City over to here to Boca, we had 7 people who succumbed to the Rona. 7. Day before, we had 24. Day before that, 22, 18, and 13. I'm sure more people than that die in car accidents each day, but you don't hear that. You won't see that anywhere. They want to talk about this escalating number. If this number were relative to the death number, we would see a relative spike. They're telling us that, if you get this thing, it's got a 10 to 14 day incubation period, and the old people are dying and succumbing. But we are not. Let me get my head out the way again. We are not seeing a spike in deaths. In anything, we're seeing just the opposite. We're seeing a declining number of deaths. Even here at this high point here, this is 41 on June 2nd. So in the last 20 days, last 3 weeks, we probably have less than a couple hundred people die. And I don't mean to make light of that at all. People dying is people dying. But come on, man. You're out there on Twitter trying to say DeSantis failed. And I guess today, the governors of New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut said, hey, people from Florida, you can't come here. If you come here, you're going to have to go into a 14-day quarantine. Like as if we want to go to Florida. That's not going to happen. Go to the Northeast, and I'm from Connecticut, and I'm not going. So it's all BS. And then again, this is the number I keep looking at, which is really important. Down here in the lower left, 6.5% overall positive rate. That number doesn't hardly budge. Like I said, I've been charting this daily since February, and I've seen it as high as 11. I've seen it as low as 4. But it's been hovering pretty much religiously at anywhere between 5 and 7%. So what's the bottom line with all this? Stop believing the hype. Stop going crazy when you see people say crazy things on Twitter and Facebook, or even here locally on the Sun Sentinel, and they post just one half of the data, and they just put this stuff up. There's a reason why they're doing this. There's a reason why they're trying to make you afraid. So let's go ahead and segue into, our real estate stuff here. And one of the things that's just real important that we need to look at is, how is this going to impact the overall real estate market here? I don't have my slide here. I should probably get it where, Warren Buffett has said over and over. And I think I do have it here. Let me just go ahead and pull this in for you. If you haven't seen this before, you're going to love this. Tell me if right now, as you're reading this right now, tell me if this isn't the time for you to be buying real estate. Does he not define specifically what's going on here? And depending on how you look at what your perspective is, let's be thankful that these idiots are posting all this stuff on Twitter. Let's just say, hey, thanks. Thanks. Because right now you're making people fearful. You are trying to terrify people. And when you terrify people by posting this kind of stuff over and over and not giving them the relative information that they need, not giving them all the information that they can basically put real decisions on and understand that nobody is dying from this thing. When I say nobody, I know there's some people dying. I'm talking in a grand picture, big picture thing. But we're being overrun. Everyone, I guess Palm Beach County has the mandatory mask thing going on now. Broward, Dade, everyone has the mandatory mask thing going on. Do you see what's happening? Do you understand that by doing that, what they're doing, they are indeed, without any equivocation, they are indeed instilling fear. That's their entire objective with this. Nobody who's really looking at this from a business or a medical situation is thinking that anything other than fear is what is driving people to be talking about this. If you knew that 6 people were going to die tomorrow in car accidents, I'm sure you wouldn't say we shouldn't be driving cars. If you knew that 6 or 7 people were going to die tomorrow because they went swimming in the ocean, you wouldn't say we need to stop people from swimming. But they're telling you and they're instilling fear into you that it's this bad and we need to stop what we're doing and give up. Stay in your homes. Don't go anywhere. Lock down the state. That's what they want. So I remember last week or so I had a show and I said that nobody had a crystal ball. I have to say, I was wrong. I do have a crystal ball. I now know what's happening. I now know where we're headed, where the market is headed. And I'm trying to tell people, and I'm trying to show you the stats, and I'm trying to give you the information that for both sides. If you're a seller, watch out. If you're a buyer, get your guns ready, get your funds ready, get your contractors ready, because it's going to be a free-for-all here real soon. I mean, I kind of equate it to, this is kind of funny. See if you guys remember this.
Hey, the Dukes are trying to corner the market.
They know something. I can feel it.
Let's get in on it.
Moving! Not yet. Almost.
140.
Hey, Minneapolis.
Now.
Yeah. South on in April of 142!
That's not right. How can the price be going down?
Something's wrong. Where's Wilson?
What are they doing here?
They're selling, Mortimer.
Well, that's ridiculous. Unless that crop report...
God help us.
I told you we shouldn't have committed everything, you asshole!
I've got to get Wilson and tell him to sell.
I love that movie. I always have. It's so funny when, Eddie and everybody else is there and people are, think they're in a position where they're going to do some things to make some things work. Is my microphone on? Yeah. And then all of a sudden, boom, they become buyers and people are going to be begging them to, basically look at property, sell their assets. That's what we're going to be seeing here. That's for sure what we're going to be seeing here. I have no doubt that it's going to be basically trading places coming up and coming soon. We don't have any doubt about that. I mean, I know I talked about the crystal ball, and the crystal ball is telling me right now that we're in, well, I wouldn't say big trouble. Yeah, so I mean, I think what we're seeing is that people are going to be having to sell their properties. We're going to see that there's a big problem, and we're going to see that it's like that movie Trading Places. And I'm looking to be, well, I'm the black guy, so I would like to be like Eddie and sit there and go buying and start picking which deals I want to go through. That's, to me, going to be the fun of everything here. And I know I'm going to be called a bottom feeder. I know that people are going to be out there saying he's basically pecking at carcasses. It's a good living. It's a good amount of money that you can make. And right now, while everybody else is out there selling fear porn, while everybody else is out there doing whatever they can to make people be terrified that life as we know it has changed, you have to remember that this is where we are. This is the market that we're in. We are in the market where people who are fearful are going to lose. People who are fearful are going to lose their properties. They're going to not be able to contend with what's happening. If people are afraid to go to a restaurant, if people can't go to concerts, if people can't go to baseball games, if people can't go to football games, if they're moving debates that are scheduled in October and saying we can't have a debate in October, which is what, 4 months, 3 months from now? No, we're in June. 4 months from now. If they're afraid of that, how are you going to get people to come see your home? How are you going to get people to come and do an open house and walk through? It's not going to happen. So, setting that stage, I want to show you guys a couple things. So let's go ahead and we're going to take a look at some things here. And one of the things is I want to show you some scary numbers. So this here is I'm going to have to move my things around here. This is the Miami-Dade County of the clerk's office, and this is where anybody, I subscribe to a number of paid services where I can search this information a lot easier, but I need to show it to you in this format so that you guys can do it for free without having to subscribe to anything. So I'm just going to search a date. I'm going to search, say, June 1 to June 24, and I'm going to look for a document type. And that document type that I'm going to be looking for is something called a list pendants. A list pendants, for those of you who don't know, is the initial filing that an attorney, bank, whatever, will make to initiate the foreclosure process. So let's go ahead and let's put in this capture, which is Y5, if I can read this stuff correctly. And I just searched the first 24 days, or from June 1st till now, and there are so many records I can't pull them all in. There are 500 foreclosures, lawsuits, and there may be some other lawsuits sprinkled in here, but there are 500 that they're allowing me to see. I would have to break this down by week to see all of the foreclosures, and they're just, boom, look at them all. There's all kinds of stuff that's happening here. And these things haven't been allowed to progress because the courts have been closed for the most part. So these are all just waiting to go. That's 500 that they're allowing me to see. Let me just try it for a week. Let me try the first, see if it gives it to me there. I hate having to do this capture every single time, which is why I have a paid service. So now here, just the first week of June, what do we get? Okay, so now there's 245, as you can see the number here, 246 list pendants is filed in the first week of June, just in Miami-Dade. Are you starting to see where this is going? If I go ahead and change this to the 9th to the 16th, let's just look at another week real quick here. Fill in the stupid CAPTCHA. Another 300 subsequent week. So we're seeing between 246 the first week, and it's going up 293 the second week. It's just going to keep building. Now let me go back to this one here. Let's go back to, let's say, June 1. Let me go back to May. May 1 to May 1 to May 30th. And now what I'm going to look for is a final judgment, meaning somebody has already been foreclosed on. Or in this, let's see, they don't have final judgment, they just have judgment. Let me go ahead and do the capture real quick. Sorry about that. This is the tools that we use to make money, and I urge you to get one that's paid where you don't have to go through all this. I messed it up again. AJHETR. And wow, in 1 week there were over 500 judgments. You're starting to see this. You're starting to see how big this can be. And just so you know, this is in every county. You can look at Broward, you can look at Dade, you can look at, Palm Beach, you can look at Martin, you can look at Port St. Lucie or St. Lucie County, and just imagine that there are just hundreds, maybe even thousands of people getting final judgments and, all kinds of crazy list penances put out there. The banks aren't waiting. The banks are going to foreclose. So let me show you another page here. And this page here is Zillow. And Zillow has a page where it makes people who are in the retail market, and what I call the retail market is people who may be looking to buy foreclosures, who really don't know what they're doing, but they're actually going to look for a deal that they can buy from a bank. And some of these things are priced really high. And I want you to take a look at this. So I'm just going to type in here, it wants to know a city. I'm going to just put in Boca Raton and let it go ahead and find its way. I want you to take a look at this. I'm going to zoom in and I want you to really, really take a look at this. Look at how many properties are on this map. This is just in one city. This is just in Boca. I can't count how many properties are. Each one of these red dots is another home in foreclosure. That means it's already gone from the list pendant stage, past the final judgment, repossessed by the bank holds the title, and now they're selling it. And I mean, we can look at different cities if you want, but it can get pretty crazy in here. Let's look at West Palm. And West Palm, I have to zoom in because there's so many. Look at them all. This is just in the city of West Palm Beach. Look at this one here is a pre-foreclosure, which means the bank hasn't taken it yet, but the people are probably trying to do a short sale. Look at them all. Look at what's happening. And we haven't even got to the meat of it yet. Do you see where this is headed? Do you see how this is going to be a serious problem moving forward, or serious opportunity? I mean, that's what I want you to look at. There's a serious opportunity both for the investors like myself to look and buy these properties. There's a serious opportunity for those who are looking to fund deals. People are looking to make 14-30% return on their funds in a short amount of time. But one of the caveats that you have to watch out for is that if we're seeing all this right now, we need to be careful that these prices don't drop much further. And this one example here, right here on the front, this is a 3-bedroom, 3-bath house in West Palm Beach that's at $107,000. They're dumping this property, and they just cut it $2,500 on June 19th. So a couple days ago, they said, listen, this isn't moving. So these prices are going to fall further. The less demand, prices got to drop. Simple economics. More inventory, less demand, which means prices got to drop. I've been following this stuff here pretty closely, and as I've been uncovering more and more information, I understand there's going to be a gold rush here. And I know when I first said that, I didn't have a crystal ball, well, I'm showing you the crystal ball. I'm showing you where to find the information where you can see for yourself what's going to be going on here in the market really, really soon. And it's actually happening right now. Further down the page here, I'm scrolling here and look at, here's one for $439. Nice house, 5'4", 3,000 square feet. They cut the price by $20,000 on June today. They dropped it $20,000 today. This property is $439. They dropped the price 5% today. Let that sink in. 5% of the value of this property just went out the window. Boom, gone. Hey man, we need to get rid of this thing. Let's go ahead and drop the price. We need to move it because we know what's coming. We know where things are headed. Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. We do have a crystal ball. We can see what is happening in the market. You just have to look. You just have to look and see these different things and what's going on, and how these properties aren't moving, and what's coming behind them. A complete deluge of more foreclosures. I mean, remember when I showed you this stuff on the Miami-Dade County Clerk's office, this was stuff that's still in the pipeline. This is stuff that's still making its way through the court system. It hasn't reached basically this level yet. They're not for sale. So think of it as the court system being the factory, the manufacturer. And nobody has told the manufacturer as of yet to slow down production. Nobody has said, hey, listen, we've got enough stuff on the market right now. We need you to hold off on pushing more and more product into the market. We can't sell what we have. We're having to put this stuff in discount bins. We're having to drop 5%, 20 grand in a day. We can't keep up. And the court's like, hey, sorry, we're going to start churning. And why it's going to get worse, and why that crystal ball should concern you, is the courts have been closed for 60 or 90 days. This stuff is just sitting there pending. It's like all of a sudden on July 2nd or 3rd, whatever DeSantis decides to do, all this stuff is going to get dumped in the market. 5% and 20 grand might not be all that big of a deal compared to what's going to happen. So you may want to just sit back and start looking at properties like, it's what I'm doing is I've put together a chart. I've put together a database of properties I'm looking at, and I'm watching. I'm waiting to see what happens in the market. Are we going to see a continued downturn? More than likely. It's inevitable. It's the immutable laws of economics. The more supply you have, with the less demand, means the price has to drop. It's that simple. We saw it all ourselves within the last 90 days. How much would you have paid for a roll of toilet paper in February or March? We couldn't find it. The demand was here. The supply was here. But now toilet paper is plentiful, at least in our stores, and demand, unless you're sick, has been pretty much the same. What happens? Price goes down. So what happens when there's a crap load of properties being dumped on the market, even in your neighborhood? I mean, let's talk about that for a second. What happens if all these properties here are being foreclosed? And, like, for instance, people who live in this neighborhood here, if you guys can see it, what do you think is going to happen with their property values? If this house over here sells for $94,000, or this one over here sells for $123,000, what do you think is going to happen with this one for $170,000? Well, they better hope that this 2-bedroom doesn't close, because this 2-bedroom at $125,000 and this one's a 2-bedroom for, basically $50,000 more. This guy's going to be screwed. This bank's going to be screwed. We're talking deficiency. It's just going to be a trust me. I've been doing this a long time. I've made my bones in foreclosures. I know what to look for. I've earned my crystal ball designation. And I'm telling you, what's coming is going to be epic. It is going to be like 2006 and 7 all over again, maybe even worse. With 50% of homeowners thinking about selling their property, with mortgage delinquencies being worse than the last 11 years. And now add to that a pandemic that has taken a lot of people's income away. So now your demand for buyers is going to be even smaller. It's going to be epic. It's going to be epic. I hope you're prepared for it. I hope I'm giving you information that you can begin as an investor now to start looking in your neighborhoods, your target areas. We call them farming grounds. And you start driving around and start looking at the signs. Start looking at the properties that are in good neighborhoods. I don't want to deal with war zones anymore. Let's look at properties in good neighborhoods. And you start seeing the signs. You start seeing overgrown grass. You start seeing, maybe accumulation of junk in the yard. You start looking at tag sales. Tag sales are a good indication people are trying to raise money. You start seeing empty homes. Talk to a postal worker in your area. Hey, listen, postal workers used to be one of my biggest sources of leads. I would pay a guy and say, listen, let me know anytime you see an empty house. If you see an empty house, just tell me and I'll give you $25. I'll do the rest of the investigation. You just tell me, hey, listen, hey, Barry, there's an empty house 2 blocks over. The mail's bouncing back. Thanks. That's all I need to know. I'll take it from there. I'll start doing the research and I'll find out what's wrong and where these people are. I'll do all the skip tracing. That's the kind of thing that's going to put you in a position beyond and a position like Danny Murphy and Dan Aykroyd, where you're going to be able to know the crop report before it comes in. That wasn't by accident that I played that video. I want you to know that you now have access to the crop report. You now know what's coming. You now can see it. You know what to look for. It's basically insider trading at its best. All this information that we're seeing in the news, on CNBC, all of the mortgage-related information, talk to some mortgage brokers. But you start compiling all this information, and as you compile this information, you're going to see that it's about to be a epic trading of places. You guys have a good one. Let me know if you have any questions. Go ahead and put it in the comments. And other than that,
you idiot! Get back in there at once.
Talk to you tomorrow.
Sell!
But I